This town has told stories about me. Horrible stories. But they don't realize I have scary stories of my own.
Cerebellos. Tell me a story.
Why are people so obsessed with scary stories? Like, what is it about scary stories that brings it together? What gives it that feeling?
I don't know. It's like what you were saying earlier today, that it's there is a community experience in horror and in being scared, that it's so wonderful to experience the balance between being scared and actually almost needing to laugh afterwards just to release the tension of the scare. And I think that's a lot of the fun of telling each other scary stories, which is weird, just kind of doing that, telling other people scary stories.
I think that in Mexico, when we discuss a movie, we call it, we don't say melodrama, we say a crying movie. We don't say horror, we say a scary movie. We don't say a comedy, we say a funny one. You know, and it's because I think those three are emotions that we love recognizing on each other. And when you get together in a theater and everybody's scared at the same moment, you have this almost like a concert experience where you all react at the same time. And it's beautiful, it's very connecting, it's very empathic. And we live lives in which we avoid emotion. We seek comfort. Our lives are uneventful. And by nature, as animals, as narrative animals, we need the scare. We need the laughter. We need the cry. We need the love experience. So you get it through narrative, and we complete it.
Some people believe if we repeat stories often enough, they become real. They make us who we are. That can be scary.
Eat it, Harold.
At the end of the book, Alvin wrote, "These are stories that are scary but are meant to make you laugh."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yes.
Will there be horror or scary stories in this movie that will make us laugh?
Well, I think that there are two types of horror. The one that is very scary and dark and scarring, and then there's the fun horror where you giggle in anticipation and you laugh in recognition, but you're still scared. That type of element is there.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of humor in the film actually, and also there is a balance between humor and scares. Also in the set piece sequences, that I think it's joyful to be scared in this movie. Yeah. I think
some kids went missing, so they boarded it up. Okay, we saw it. Should we go now?
Who ordered the chicken?
One of my favorite things you guys also mentioned yesterday at the event is that you picked specific stories for specific characters.
Yes.
Like which story embodied which character. For example, Ruth, the red spot was perfect for her because she's obsessed with perfection.
Yes.
If you guys had to pick a scary story that embodied you, what would it be and why?
There's a story in the books that I love that I wanted to put in that embodies what I believe is our job. It's called The Window. And it's about a guy that is laying on a bed convalescent, and there's another guy next to him, and one of them has a view to the window, the other one doesn't, and he tells him everything that is outside. And the other one grows envious that he doesn't have that view. And if this character is dead, the other one gets to the bed, and he realizes there was a brick wall, and that everything came from the imagination of the guy that he hated, you know? And I feel that that's the role of a storyteller in our society. We are looking at a brick wall, and we have to invent all these things.
How many stories from the books are in the movie?
There's roughly about 5 or 6, you know, and some of them are referenced, some of them are combined. Like the Jangly Man, which is a creature we created, is a combination of 2. There is about 5 or 6 top of the charts, the ones that everybody wants. There will be some people that say, oh, I want this other one. I want the Mexican pet, or I want this and that. I mean, I guarantee you most of the ones that people want are in the movie.
You don't read the book. The book reads you.
No, it's not an anthology at all. It's a very cohesive story. I'll leave it at that.
Beginning and middle and end. It's basically a group of kids in the last summer of their childhood, about to go to real world, university, war, adulthood, discovering what his stories do to their lives, and finding each other in the middle of a horrifying adventure in which they try to decipher the mystery of a girl in the 1800s that wrote a book that writes itself and finds the scariest things you can experience. Each and every one that takes the book experiences a horrible story, and the characters live through them together.
And why 1968?
It was important to set it in a time where we could have a recognizable reality, in which is a time of turmoil that is relevant to the theme of stories, a time of great lies and great stories being told to the entire country. One of the last years of innocence, also for America, you know, and to have the kids in a world where verbal and written story is important. It's not disposable. You don't have it on your iPhone. It's not changing every 5 minutes. So it has a weight. And they don't have Google to decipher the mystery. And they cannot dial 911 in the street corner. And basically, in terms of world experience, a 17-year-old in 68 is a 12-year-old now. So it allowed us to set it in a time that was relevant to the storytelling.
Andre, I remember you mentioned yesterday that you actually hadn't read the books like me, but you fell in love with the screenplay. So after you read the screenplay, did you go back and read the books?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. No, they were great little stories of that have just tension and, in a way, a very playful attitude. I mean, there is a lot of them actually end with the sentence, and then you turn to your friend and you say "boo," and we actually do that in a movie as a gag to live up to that thing. And I think that's part of the playfulness of the books, and also part of the playfulness of the film, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the way Andre planned the set pieces, they play beautifully. Only no dialogue, just sound and images and camera movement and suspense, and they build a beautiful setup, and it has a great punchline, you know, and then they continue. It's really, I think his set pieces are fantastic in this movie.
The jangling man is coming.
What makes these stories so scary? Like, what element does it have to have?
Simplicity, I think. I think that the best thing in these stories is simplicity, that you recognize what is about to happen, and then it happens and you still are scared.
What was your favorite creature to create in this movie? Andre, you first.
I mean, maybe we have the same one, but I think the Pale Lady is the one that feels just so unique to me, because she is both benign, she appears benign, she has a kind of Mona Lisa smile, but it's...
And crazy eyes.
Yeah, and then these eyes that are, yeah. And she's just kind of relentless at the same time as she's... So there is a fun balance between several elements in her entire being that I think is very exciting.
Yes, and that's the same for me. What we wanted was to try to emulate with the creatures the black and white feeling of the illustrations in the book. So we knew we wanted them drained of color. You know, so we tried to make them parchment yellow, sort of nicotine yellow, and white. So we went for the desaturation in the creatures, all of them. You know, and obviously you light them differently. For example, the corpse in the story, the big toe, is lit with a cyan light, so it looks blue-greenish. But the palette of the sculpture and the painting is very pale parchment yellow.
How is this different from other horror films that you've done in the past?
Well, I think that in many ways is of a piece with many of them. I mean, the Orphanage, Mama, Devil's Backbone, you know, they have young characters in danger, But what is beautiful about this is that it has a playfulness that none of the other movies have. Like there's a deeper darkness in things like The Orphanage or Mama. This has a very gentle spirit. It has really terrifying moments, really hardcore, but it has a fun factor that I think is Andre's doing and the screenplay's doing, and the spirit of the book. When you read Stephen King, he's never going to be in the young adult section, but you can find really scary stories in the young adult section. This is a young adult section type of movie.